During the 16 Days of Action 2022 campaign,
Gosa Girls on Fire and Tech Shack Tactical TV interview ordinary but outstanding women.
Hashtag I am every woman.
In our interviews, we honor outstanding businesswomen who have made a difference in their specific sphere of society to ladies who have overcome horrific gender-based violence incidences.
We believe in action, not activism.
Why are women continually cast as helpless victims?
Bystanders to their own fate, presuming that victimhood is a fait accompli. We are not simply deer in the headlights of gender-based violence.
We can and will stand up for ourselves.
We are not second-class citizens who need special days and men standing up for us.
We say no more.
Activism does not change the minds of predators.
Predators will always be predators, waiting in the dark to claim their victims. Standing on street corners with placards saying that we are against gender-based violence has and never alone make a difference. Take action now, not to be a victim, and be a strong woman. Do not put your trust in anybody else except yourself. Take the example from the strong women in these interviews and be a warrior. Hashtag victim no longer.
Lynette Oxley here for Tech Shack Tactical TV and Gosa Girls on Fire. And for the 16 Days of Action for No Violence Against Women and Children. I'm sitting here with a really pretty lady, Lebo. Welcome, Lebo.
Thank you so much, Lynette, and thank you for hosting me and for this invite. I really do appreciate it.
That's great seeing you, and thank you for coming all the way from Pretoria.
It's a real pleasure.
Tell me a little bit, who's Lebo? How did you get to the now?
To the now. Okay, so Lebo is a mother of one. Let's start by that because that's a very important role that I play. 36-year-old lady who is working as a marketing academic at the Tshwane University of Technology. I've been working there for about 10 years now, lecturing. And, I've always been a very diverse and dynamic young lady who is driven and who always wants to see change in the environment that she finds herself in. So where did it all start? So I've always been very vibrant. Typical middle child, very extroverted, and I've always liked to say things and like to do things, so that's where it all began. So my childhood was a very interesting childhood because as a middle child amongst two sisters, I was always the naughty one, and through that naughtiness then the creativity came out, the fun person came out, even though it was not always good because I used to do very, very naughty things. But then through all of that coming out and through my journey unfolding into my teens, I found myself then in a situation where I ended up in university as expected and studying marketing. And through studying marketing, I remember with one of the modules that I was doing in my first year, I found it a bit boring, and funny enough, I'm actually teaching that module this year. It's personal selling. So with personal selling, I remember sitting in the classes and it was absolutely boring, and it was not the lecturer who was presenting it, but the content for me was not stimulating enough. So me being the creative person, I decided to just turn all that content around into my own way of understanding how to sell yourself, how to put yourself out there, before you can actually put any products out there. And that's how I interpreted everything. And why I'm sharing that is because through that journey of, translating the content into how to sell myself, I found myself then, opening up many doors for myself in the sense of, being very active in a lot of activities and initiatives within the university. I became part of the residence committee at the university, staying in the arts campus, and I headed the marketing portfolio. I was working, juggling multiple jobs and everything, but all of that came through, the extroverted me, the creative me, as well as translating what I found boring into making it into something that was very, very interesting. And that's how I've been navigating, I'm just putting myself out there and, opening up doors for myself and for those that are around me, because I don't just function alone in a silo. I function with a tribe of very strong men and women that I know that, if I can grow the community and I can open doors for myself and for the community, I know that it's going to serve the larger world, the world at large. So then, yes, so studied marketing, undergrad, and then got into many other qualifications as well in the university. And I just started finding myself just, going out there. Opportunities were coming, but but I was also attracting them, and I was also fighting for them, and that's how I got into, the Young African Leaders Initiative in 2016, where I was chosen as part of cohort 4 of the Yali Initiative. And I was under the entrepreneurship track, and it was quite an amazing experience. But that all came from just me putting myself out there and just embracing the skills that I've got and putting my marketing to practice. And then same year, I made it into the UN Empower Women program, where I became a global champion for change for women's rights, because I'm very passionate about women's rights.
Please expand a little bit on that for me, please.
Okay, so that one was actually a very interesting one because it was an online program. So we had to, we were linked up with a mentor from somewhere else in the world. So my mentor was from India, and Dr. Sushi, and she mentored me. So we worked on a couple of programs together, and eventually these were programs that were designed to create change for young women and young girls around the world. So that's how it all manifested. And then I just kept on implementing, and eventually we finished the program, and I got my certificate as a global champion for change. And I was also profiled on the previous website. So it was quite a life-changing, experience, because I got mentored by someone virtually who's on the other side of the world and who comes from a whole different dynamic and different background to what I'm accustomed to, So it was really, really empowering. And through that, then what else happened? There's just been so many more.
Talk a little bit about the Zahara project and your involvement in that, and also in the book Unbound, and what's the book about?
Okay, so the Zahara's Dream Project, how that manifested, it was through one of my friends, Michelle Muzondo, who's actually based in Zim. So we were both global champions for change with the UN project. And one day on Twitter, she saw this, program that was being launched, and she said, what, let's both apply to be mentors for this program. So then we did the application, and eventually the founder, Miss Verlaine Sobrudu, she's from the US, but she's also from Africa. She actually did an online interview with me, and we clicked, and eventually I got selected to be one of the global mentors. And my mentee was all the way from Zimbabwe, and we got along very, very well. But then through that Zahara Stream project, I actually got my first international speaking event through her, where I was actually speaking to ladies all over the world about personal branding and how to grow your personal brand. So that's where the personal selling is coming into play again. And then, so then I became very, very involved with the mentorship program, and made it into the second cohort of the mentorship program as well, and then also assisted Verlaine with certain projects on the side. But then what was so interesting about now the book, because she's the one that actually wrote the book Unbound, she started hinting that she's going to write a book. And I just said to her, you know what, you're my sister, and I will assist you. I'm here to cheerlead you, and I love the work that you do, So through that, then Verlaine wrote the book, and she launched the book. And when she launched the book in South Africa, she invited me to come and be the moderator at Exclusive Books in Sandton City for the book launch. So that was her first official book.
What is the book about?
The book is a lyrical manifestation of her tweets.
Okay.
And she started writing this book during the hard lockdown. And it's just, it touches on so many elements and facets of life, from empathy and how we relate to each other and how we see each other and how we treat each other, to, moments of sadness that she experienced, moments of reflection, moments of growth, and how she felt the need to stop being bound. And that's why the title is Unbound. So it's such a beautiful lyrical manifestation. And having gone through the book and having shared the book with other people closest to me, we all find elements of relatability in the book, because of the fact that, when you look at things from a human perspective, from a humane and a space of humility, you start relating differently. You start, approaching people differently. You start empathizing, differently. You start leading differently and being more compassionate. So it's relatable from that point of view. And that is why from time to time on my Saturday mornings, I just sit in the sunbathe with the book in hand, because then it brings me back, it draws me back, and it draws the reader back to that humble space of Ubuntu and humanity and humility.
Because we had lost a lot of that during lockdown, especially in Twitter. People got cross with each other. They swore at each other. If you had a different belief, it was a bad space during COVID.
It was really, Lynette. And, we found that also Twitter became very toxic. And social media as well became very, very toxic during that time because there was just a lot going on in the world, and there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of depression. So much became exposed through the lockdown. And that book really, just uncovers and unpacks those elements of humanity that we've lost. And it brings you back, it grounds you, to just remind you that you need to see me and I need to see you. And irrespective of the narratives that are being spewed out there, we know of the racism, we know of the xenophobia, we know of all of these social ills that we're faced with. But then how do we as people, go against that narrative and start working towards a more empathetical and more authentic society, which we still need to live and coexist in, and we still need to also raise our children in.
Absolutely.
So that's what I really love about it, because it grounds you and it brings you back to just a space of humanity.
And your network, Secrets of Sisterhood. Let's talk about that. I think we can cover that as well.
That's my baby. That's my varsity baby. If they say anyone was pregnant in varsity in university, that was me with Secrets of Sisterhood. Where it came from is just from living in a residence with a lot of young ladies. And I've always been, my mom calls me a professional feminist, but I'm not a professional feminist.
You're there for rights.
I'm there for rights and I'm there for principles,
Absolutely.
So, yes, so I founded Secrets of Sisterhood back in 2011 when just after now I'd started lecturing. But then the concept and idea had already been there since 2006 when I was in Heidehof residence there at TUT. I'm living amongst a lot of ladies, and I just saw that, we all come from different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And we are all common university students. It's a new environment for all of us. But then, how then do we support each other? How do we facilitate authentic conversations about why we're here and where we're going? The challenges that we're facing. And Secrets of Sisterhood then grew because when I started lecturing, then I came across my students that I have to interact with on a day-to-day basis. And I know a lot of the focus is always on the girl child, but I'll come to that. So with Secrets of Sisterhood, I started adopting my female students that I would see in class, that I knew that, they have something special in them. And then started, mentoring them and walking that journey with them, because I reflected back on my journey as a young girl in university who just had to, as much as she had the support of family and everything, but I had to literally go and hustle and make sure that I finish and I graduate and I still stay focused in the midst of everything that happens in the university environment. But understanding that it can be a very painful and lonely journey for a lot of young ladies, and especially because we all don't come from the same backgrounds, I took that lesson and that experience from me, that I experienced, and I just reached out to my students, my female students, and it was a beautiful couple of years with them, because it was lovely to see them coming in as these, growing, coming in as these very, very vulnerable, some of them were very vibey, but a lot of them were very fragile, young first-year girls, and then seeing them into their third years, graduating, a lot of them are married now, they've got children, but understanding, how they've developed through that journey of having somebody mentor them. And then another thing was that I used to also expose them to the business world, the corporate world, because a lot of the time we think about, they just need to graduate and get out of the system, but we don't care much about where are they going
afterwards.
Because that 3 years is very critical. It's a very important 3 years, and whatever happens after that 3 years, now you're a full-blown member of society. Now you have to go and be an employee at an organization. You have to you have to run your own family. There's a lot of changes that come in. And when you go into the work environment, do you know how to dress up for the work environment? Do you know how to speak, how to draft your CV? And, I just had to expose them. Those basic life skills.
Yeah.
So I had to equip them with that, and we went on a lot of excursions to corporate events, where they could learn how to network and see how the big world is, how the real world is, because at the end of the day, they all need to blend into this world. They need to run the industries. They need to, be the change makers. And that's where it manifested too. And then even with the years then, I started now divulging away from the university girls, because even I was growing. And as a person that was growing, as a mom as well, I had to now start looking at life from a different perspective of, I'm now a woman, I'm now a mother, there's other women that are also going through a lot. How then do you reach out to them? What support do you give them? And that is why I call the secrets of sisterhood, because sisterhood has a lot of secrets in it. And sometimes we don't want to share the secrets, right? Because we hold on to them. But the moment we start sharing our stories, our similarities, our vulnerabilities, that is when, the sisterhood becomes even much more stronger. So Secrets of Sisterhood, like I said, it's my firstborn child. I know my daughter's going to be so upset with me by saying that, but it's my firstborn baby. Yeah. And I'm actually in the process of bringing it back, but with a different twist, because I'm a firm believer in empowering both women and young boys and young men, because, we cannot leave the other behind. And this is why, as well, we are failing to coexist, because a lot of the focus as well is on the girl child. But I'm bringing it back with a different swing, so look out for what's
Absolutely.
happening.
We're going to put all of your Twitter and other social media handles, we'll put at the end of the video as well.
Thank you.
How do you feel in terms of just gender-based violence in South Africa?
Gender-based violence in South Africa is horrendous. It's heartbreaking. It's triggering, actually. I don't know if you've got time, because I just want to relay a very painful story that just happened literally 2 weeks ago, where my helper, her friend, was literally a victim of gender-based violence. She was with her the day before. They stayed in the same yard. And she was with her the day before, they were chatting. My helper has just had a baby now. So the baby's about 10 weeks old. So she was busy washing the baby's clothes and chatting with her friend, not knowing that that is one of the last conversations she's ever going to have with her. Because Saturday morning, she found her dead. The boyfriend, unfortunately, killed her and opened her body up and took her heart and went and sold it.
So unfortunately, that gruesomeness is very South African. One of my very good friends is Gerard Labuskachny, and he does deal with these, because you can't be normal to do that type of thing.
You cannot be normal.
I think GBV is an international problem, but the gruesomeness of that is not, it's a very particular South African problem.
Yes, it is. And with GBV as well, because we look at it just from a societal point of view, working in a university, we see victims of GBV, and that's another segment that no one really wants to tap into, what's happening in the universities, because we focus on the community, society, but what is happening in our institutions of higher learning on both staff and students,
Absolutely.
So GBV is it's a topic that hurts me the most, because one way or another I've experienced it, and I've had to learn to heal from it, in different ways. And one thing I can say is that it's a social ill, and it's scary to even be raising children in such an environment where GBV is on the rise. You worry about your kids playing outside. You worry about walking around the malls with your kids because of the human trafficking, where that gender-based violence is going to take place once they get trafficked.
I'm talking to another lady, Bronwyn Scholars, and she was involved from the police side in human trafficking, and it's a big problem in Johannesburg and Pretoria. It's a huge problem, and I understand. If I had a child and you're walking through a shopping center, I would be worried, and it's not something nice to go through, to think about.
It's not, and Lynette, as a mom, I get so scared to go with my daughter to the shops. I'd rather do my shopping while she's at school, to avoid going with her to a shopping mall, because you just never know, We've seen horrendous videos on Twitter of human trafficking. We've seen horrendous videos everywhere, of GBV just being done.
But you can't stop living either. That's
the other thing.
So, Girls on Fire really believes in actually empowering women, but also first thing is to be situationally aware.
Yes.
Be aware of what's going on around you. Your message to young ladies out there for the 16 days of action, because you're definitely a lady of action. You don't just sit down. You basically, everything about you is about action. So what is your message out there to young women out there?
My message to young women out there is that step into your power, unapologetically so. Be authentic in all you do. And do not let the world silence you. Do not be scared to speak out. When somebody has violated you, when somebody has intimidated you, do not be scared to speak out. I know it's easier said than done because we get girls that are being victimized. But do not be silenced by perpetrators who, feel the power and get the power from your silence. Speak out, as difficult as it may be. Find a safe space to speak out at. Write to someone. You can even reach out to people like me. And let's stop being silent.
That's the first start.
Let us start opening up for each other, and also let's start being safe spaces for other women and other young girls that we know that are facing, cases of abuse. Let's create safe spaces where they can come and speak to us, and let's all action this together, because at the end of the day, keeping quiet is not helping, it's not solving the problem, it's actually amplifying the problem, and also be fearless. I know fear is very paralyzing, but the minute you step away from that fear and you take control, that is a moment where a lot of things will change. Because once people see that you're very fearless, you're very powerful, you're very authentic, and you know what you stand for, they will not mess with you.
Absolutely. I believe we are sisters, which yes. I can take out of our discussion now. And I also believe we are warriors. Women don't need to sit in the darkness. We can fight and stand up for ourselves. So thank you very much. It was an absolute awesome interview. And hopefully we'll see you at one of our events in the future, but we will definitely keep in touch.
I will definitely be at one of your events. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lebo. Thank you.
I'm a girl on fire. I'm not a victim. A girl on fire. I'll stand my ground. Girl on fire. I've made a choice. I stand proud. I'm a girl on fire. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. I'm every woman. I have taken up arms and I choose to defend all that I hold dear. Independent and strong, you will not keep me down. You can't break me. I'm a girl on fire. I'm not a victim. A girl on fire. I'll stand my ground. Girl on fire. I've made a choice. I stand proud. Countless hours on the range, I am responsibly armed. I am your equal. I've empowered myself. I have practiced and trained. Fear won't control me. With my sisters in arms, we will make ourselves heard. We'll stand together. I'm a girl